Picture this. You're sitting in a courtroom, trusting that the person in the black robe will deliver fair justice. But what if I told you that some of these judges, well, let's just say they had their own agenda? What if the very person meant to uphold the law was secretly breaking it in the most shocking ways imaginable? Today, we're diving deep into the dark world of judicial corruption. And trust me, by the time we get to our number one pick, you'll understand why one particular Supreme Court justice has the entire legal world questioning everything they thought they knew about judicial ethics. But first, let me tell you about judges who made history for all the wrong reasons. Story 10. Judge Christina Peterson. Let's kick things off with a case so recent it's still making headlines. Judge Christina Peterson from Georgia, removed from her position just this past June 2024 by the Georgia Supreme Court itself. This wasn't your typical corruption case involving briefcases full of cash. No, this was something far more insidious. The Georgia Judicial Qualifications Commission documented a devastating pattern of serious misconduct. Peterson mishandled a 2021 criminal contempt hearing where she imposed the maximum jail sentence without any explanation. Imagine the terror of not knowing why you're being punished. She allowed prohibited ex parte meetings, secret conversations that completely violate judicial ethics, and treated county employees with shocking hostility. The Georgia Supreme Court didn't just remove her, they banned her from holding any judicial office in Georgia for 7 years. Peterson's case is a stark reminder that judicial misconduct isn't just a thing of the past. It's happening right now in our modern courtrooms. Story 9. Judge Harry E. Claiborne. Now, let's travel back to Nevada in the 1980s for a tale that reads like a financial thriller. Judge Harry E. Claiborne thought he was above the law, literally. This federal judge was living large while conveniently forgetting to pay his taxes. We're talking about financial fraud and tax evasion on a scale that would make your accountant weep. Claiborne became one of the few judges in US history to actually be successfully impeached and removed from office. Think about that. In over 200 years of American history, successful judicial impeachments can be counted on your fingers. The man who was supposed to interpret tax law for others couldn't be bothered to follow it himself. Story 8. Judge Charles W. Pickering Sr. Moving into murkier waters, we encounter Judge Charles W. Pickering Sr. from Mississippi. His story shows how personal beliefs and political connections can corrupt judicial decision-making in shocking ways. Pickering faced intense criticism for questionable rulings that seemed suspiciously aligned with his personal and political beliefs rather than the law. His confirmation process became a battlefield, highlighting what happens when lifetime appointments collide with ethical conflicts. The controversy wasn't just about individual decisions, it was about the very integrity of the federal bench. His case sparked national debates about judicial ethics that continue to this day, proving that some corruption scandals leave scars that never fully heal. Story 7. Judge Samuel Chase. Hold on to your seats because we're going back to the early 1800s. Judge Samuel Chase holds a distinction that no Supreme Court justice ever wants to claim. He's the only Supreme Court justice in American history to be impeached by the House of Representatives. Chase's corruption wasn't about money, it was about extreme partisan behavior on the bench. This man turned courtrooms into political battlegrounds, using his position to advance his own political agenda rather than deliver impartial justice. Although the Senate ultimately acquitted him, Chase's impeachment sent shockwaves through the early American legal system. Little did anyone know that centuries later, we'd be dealing with similar questions about the highest court in the land. Story 6. Judge John H. Pickering. Judge John H. Pickering earned himself a unique place in American legal history. He was one of the very first US judges to be impeached and removed from office, setting a precedent that echoes through centuries. What makes Pickering's story compelling is that it proves corruption in the judiciary isn't some modern phenomenon. It's been a challenge since the very beginning of our nation. His case became the template that future generations would use to address judicial misconduct, making him both a cautionary tale and an unwitting architect of judicial oversight. Don't miss out! Explore our handpicked true crime recommendations, links in the description. Story 5. Judge Herman Thomas. From Alabama comes a story that shows how judicial corruption can completely obliterate a legal career. Judge Herman Thomas of the Mobile Circuit Court faced removal by Alabama's Court of the Judiciary for allegations of improper conduct involving litigants and abusing his position. Thomas's case demonstrates the ripple effects of judicial corruption. When a judge abuses their position, it doesn't just affect individual cases, it undermines public confidence in the entire legal system. His downfall serves as a stark reminder that when judicial power is abused, the consequences are swift and devastating. Story 4. Judge G. Thomas Porteous Jr. Buckle up for a story that has it all. Bribery, fraud, and corruption so extensive it reads like a crime novel. Judge G. Thomas Porteous Jr. from Louisiana was impeached and removed from office for a cornucopia of corrupt activities. Porteous accepted bribes while actively presiding over cases, essentially putting justice up for sale to the highest bidder. But that wasn't enough. He also engaged in fraudulent bankruptcy filings, lying to federal authorities about his financial situation while simultaneously selling his judicial decisions. This wasn't a moment of weakness. This was a sustained pattern of criminal behavior that made a mockery of everything the justice system represents. His impeachment sent a clear message: no judge, no matter how powerful, is above the law. Story 3. Judge Alex Kozinski. Now we're climbing to the highest levels with a story that sent shockwaves throughout the legal establishment. Judge Alex Kozinski wasn't just any judge, he was one of the most prominent and influential appellate judges in the country, serving on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit. Kozinski's fall was particularly stunning because of his reputation and influence. This was a judge whose opinions were studied in law schools, whose legal mind was respected across the political spectrum. But behind that distinguished facade lurked serious ethical problems. When scandals finally came to light, he chose resignation over facing consequences. His departure raised uncomfortable questions about oversight at the highest levels. If someone this prominent could engage in such conduct, what does that say about our systems of judicial monitoring? Story 2. Judge Samuel B. Kent. Get ready for a story that made legal history in the most disturbing way. Judge Samuel B. Kent, a federal judge from Texas, became the first federal judge impeached in nearly 20 years. Kent's case demonstrates how thoroughly someone can abuse the power and prestige of a federal judgeship. The specifics of his misconduct were so serious that they prompted Congress to act, and congressional impeachment happens maybe once in a generation. What makes Kent's story tragic is how it highlights the devastating impact judicial corruption has on public trust. When federal judges with lifetime appointments betray their oath, it shakes the very foundations of our legal system. Story 1. Judge Clarence Thomas. And now, the moment you've been waiting for, the story that has the entire legal world asking uncomfortable questions about the highest court in our land. Justice Clarence Thomas of the US Supreme Court finds himself at the center of an ethics storm that threatens to reshape how we think about judicial accountability. Remember at the beginning when I promised you'd understand why one particular Supreme Court justice has everyone questioning judicial ethics? Well, here we are. Thomas faces unprecedented scrutiny over his failure to disclose luxury trips, expensive gifts, and extensive financial ties with wealthy political donors. We're talking about relationships that span decades and involve millions of dollars in undisclosed benefits. What makes this story so explosive is the sheer scale and duration of these undisclosed relationships. Critics argue that Thomas's conduct undermines the very concept of judicial impartiality. How can you trust a justice's decisions when they're living a lifestyle bankrolled by people with clear political agendas? The Thomas controversy has sparked calls for stronger ethics rules for Supreme Court justices, something that would have been unthinkable just a few years ago. His case has become the poster child for why even the most powerful judges in America need oversight and accountability. This isn't just about one justice. It's about preserving public faith in our highest court. When citizens start questioning whether Supreme Court decisions are influenced by luxury vacations and expensive gifts, our entire system of justice is in jeopardy. The most shocking part, unlike the other judges on our list who faced impeachment or removal, Thomas continues to serve on the Supreme Court. His case proves that sometimes the most powerful positions come with the least accountability. From historical impeachments to modern-day scandals, these 10 cases prove that judicial corruption is an ongoing battle for our democracy. These judges forgot that justice isn't just blind, it's supposed to be incorruptible. What's particularly disturbing is how these cases span centuries, showing that the temptation to abuse judicial power is timeless, whether it's accepting bribes, playing political games, or living luxurious lifestyles funded by powerful interests. Corrupt judges have found countless ways to betray the public trust. But here's what gives me hope. Most of these judges faced consequences. They were impeached, removed, forced to resign, or banned from future service. It proves that our system, while imperfect, has mechanisms to fight back against corruption. The question is, are those mechanisms strong enough for today's challenges? When we see ongoing controversies at the highest levels of our judiciary, we have to ask ourselves whether our oversight systems need updating for the modern era. What do you think? Should there be stronger ethics rules for all judges, especially Supreme Court justices? Have you ever wondered about the integrity of decisions made by judges living lifestyles far beyond their salaries? Let me know in the comments below. If you're as shocked by these stories as I am, you absolutely have to check out our previous Corrupt Judges video where we exposed 10 more unbelievable cases. The link is right up there in the corner. And trust me, those stories will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about judicial integrity. Until next time, keep it legal.